Good morning, you guys. Well, actually, it's good afternoon. uh, I wasn't gonna go live today, but I have to. I gotta get this word out. Just coming back from church, Pastor Walkup was preaching out of Second Kings, the fourth chapter, and he was talking about a widow. She was talking to the prophet Elijah. Her husband, who was a servant of Elijah, had died, and he was a God-fearing man. He died, and the widow came to Elijah, and she was like, "Look, basically, and I'm gonna put this in layman's terms. I'm behind on my bills, and the creditors are now coming after my sons, and they are going to make them slaves to pay off the debt." And Elijah asked her, "What do you have in your house?" And that was the topic of the sermon, is what do you have in your house? That was the subtopic, because the question is, what do you have? So, what struck me about this sermon is the fact that Elijah doesn't come out of pocket to give her money to pay for her bills, but he gives her a set of instructions. These instructions were, after she told him what she had in her house, she had a pot of oil. And he told her, he said, "You and your sons go to your neighbors, look around your house, and get every vessel that you can find. Okay? Get every vessel you can find." Now, imagine a vessel is way more than a pot, right? So he tells her to go get every vessel that she can find. Then he tells her and her kids to go into their house with the vessels. "Hello, how you doing?" He tells her to go into the vessel, or go into the house with the vessels, okay? And then he tells her to shut the door and start filling the vessels with the pot. I'm sorry, help me smile on this. All right, so tells her to fill the vessels with the pot. All right, she shuts the door. She follows the instructions. She's obedient to the prophet. The prophet got a word from God to give to her. She takes that pot of oil and she fills every vessel that she could fill, and tells her sons, because her sons are helping her. Hello, guys. Her sons are helping her. I'm from Kentucky. Her sons are helping her fill these vessels. And after they're all filled, she tells them to go get more, and they're like, "Mom, there is no more." So she goes out, tells Elijah, "I did everything you asked." He tells her, "Now, you have enough vessels there where you can pay off your debt, and you can live off of for the rest of your life. You can sell them and pay your bills for the rest of your life on this blessing." All right, so I'm gonna give y'all a blessing and let y'all see what's going on outside here, because I know y'all tired of looking at me. But I want y'all to think about that for a second, because it reminds me of the story where Jesus fed 5,000 men plus women and children with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, where he fed them till they were satisfied, and they had 12 baskets of scraps left over. And what the pastor was trying to get us to understand is the only way that we can make it through tough times, and it don't always have to be financial. The only way we can make it through tough times or an attack from Satan is being obedient. Also, reading your word, because the word is the blueprint. The Bible is the blueprint on how you're supposed to live. And before I got to church this morning, something compelled me to play Proverbs. I started at chapter 7, and I made it all the way to 15 before I got to church. And I have read 1 through 7 already. And Solomon is the author with others of Proverbs, okay? And I did not see any tail lights, did y'all? Okay, so Solomon, if you don't know who Solomon is, he's King David's son. The David that killed Goliath. Solomon prayed for wisdom, and God granted him wisdom, godly wisdom. And so he wrote Proverbs, which is about wisdom, but it's also about the way you speak, the way you talk, your actions, how you're supposed to live versus how not to live, how to speak versus how not to speak. And he tells you to seek wisdom. He tells you to seek godly counsel. And he talks about how when you go after wickedness, you're actually going after foolishness. You're a fool. Because wickedness it leads to death. And I want you to think about that. I mean, you go to break the law, what does it lead to? It leads to you losing your freedom or losing your life. I don't understand why is it so hard for people to be kind. I don't understand why it's so hard for people to do the right thing. And I'm talking about myself. Sometimes temptation, because it's not just about stealing and killing. We're talking about lying. We're talking about committing adultery, fornication. Temptation is rough. You know, you're tempted to lie so you don't have to deal with the consequences. But then that lie makes it worse. You are tempted by the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever your temptation is that is not of God, and you say, oh, well, nobody's around, nobody will find out, but God's always around. And I'm not saying you'll say, I've said that, but nobody's around to find out. But God knows, and you know. And if you truly are a decent person, or if you turn into a decent person, or you have some ounce of morality about you, your conscience will bother you. And I always say that my conscience is God, because he won't leave me alone until I make things right. Thank you for the likes, you guys. So, didn't mean to, well, yeah, I did. I meant to get this word out there because that word was very powerful. because it's aligning with some stuff that's getting ready to go on in my life that I'm excited about. And I'm not going to say too much about it, but I'm excited about it, and it was like, take what little you have. God can take what little you have. They took the road up. God can take what little you have, right? And he can turn it into a lifetime of abundance. My gosh, y'all. That's, and I'm not talking about prosperity preaching. Well, if you tithe, God, I'm talking about this woman didn't tithe. She didn't go to Elijah and give him money so she could be abundant. No, that didn't happen. What happened was, is that she went to Elijah for help, and he was obedient to the Lord, and she was obedient. Okay? That's what happened. And I get a hallelujah. You just got to trust, believe, have faith. A lot of people ask me, why do I believe in God when I can't see him? I can't touch him. And when you read Hebrews 11:1, it tells you, it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not seen. And the evidence is that I feel him when I talk to him. He has intervened in my life when I thought things were going to go bad. And people could say, oh, that's just coincidence. I don't believe in no coincidence. There ain't no such thing as coincidence. That's just that's my statement, all right? That's my belief. I can remember, this is the thing, you guys, and I didn't get to tell this testimony in church the other day, but I'm going to tell it today. I'm going to tell it to you guys, okay, if y'all allow me to. 2008, I was laid off. All right, I had 3 kids, a wife, and a kid on the way. 2 out of the 3 kids were still in diapers, and she was pregnant with my 4th. And I got laid off. And something told me, don't worry about it. So I didn't. And I know who that something was. It was God. And I didn't know at that time, but I know now. He said, don't worry about it. I got you. And I didn't worry about it. I thought, okay, yeah, I'm going to get on unemployment. Since I got kids, I'm going to get WIC. I'm going to get food stamps. I'm going to be okay. All right? That's how I felt. That's what happened. But it was a struggle at first because we were unemployment was barely paying the bills. Our food stamps were only getting like $75 to $100 a month. Now, mind you, I still had a pregnant wife and 3 kids and myself to feed. No other job was paying what my job was paying. That was hiring. But I kept going to church, started building my faith, my relationship with the Lord. Me and my wife probably got along better during that time than in our entire marriage. I do believe, and I think she'll say the same thing. We got along really good. Then, here's the breakthrough, guys. I got a raise in my unemployment, I got a raise in food stamps, and then my job hired me back about a year and a half later. By 2009, I was employed again. And then, by 2010, I had the opportunity for another job that paid more money. This is 2010. So I went from unemployed to having my pick of jobs. Then I picked this, I went to another job. They were paying great. The atmosphere was great. I'm going to retire from here, but the Lord had other plans. The company that I was working for was actually a joint venture between two parent companies, and one parent company wanted out the joint venture, and another company bought it wholly. Okay, is he working? Okay, they bought it wholly, and it became. We went under their umbrella, and that was one of the worst days of my life. The family atmosphere went out the door. The atmosphere of, you know, we care about your well-being, that went out the door. And the pension that I was supposed to have had, that went out the door. So I'm getting a pension, but it's not as lucrative as it would have been under the other company. Okay, so anyway, I was depending on someone or people instead of depending on the Lord for my future. Okay, so make a long story short, went from unemployed and having a good time while I was unemployed. Everything was paid for. Everybody was getting along. My kids were healthy, or still are healthy. To get hired back, to having my choice of jobs, to getting a great job, to that job being pretty much decimated by the company that bought it out. And all of that happened for this reason here. And it makes me, this is why this hit so hard, was now I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, so I got laid off in 2008, and then now about 15 years later I become an entrepreneur. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur, and God has shown me in this sermon that He can take a little and turn it into a lot. Y'all get it? I have a little. As the widow would say, I don't have but a pot of oil. But I know now that pot of oil is getting ready to turn into financial security for the rest of my life. I gotta trust, I gotta believe, I gotta work, and I gotta be obedient. The work part is where people they think they can just sit, and that's what Pastor said today. He said people think they can sit on their do nothing and still expect the Lord to bless them abundantly. But it says in the Word that faith without works is dead, and same be, works without faith is dead. And people don't want to work. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But it is what it is. So, I can only stand in judgment for myself, and I'm going to do the best that I can to the people around me, for the people around me, people in my life. And I'm going to try my best to be a light and lift up the Lord so He can draw all men unto Him. So, with that being said, guys, I love you. If everyone's a servant, everyone gets served. And I pray that you all have a blessed day. Thank you for riding with me. Thank you for riding with Tim. Hopefully I'll be back on tomorrow. All right? Love you guys. Y'all take it easy.